Hey guys, this is T-Man here with another video from Dominations. The first video we're going to start with, we're going to start on the topic of the museum. I've had some people ask me about the museum, and I wanted to make a little bit of a deep dive video about specifically not just the museum side, but the war museum side. If you're in World Wars, the museum can be a very, very powerful tool that can drastically improve your chances of either winning a defensive battle or winning an offensive battle. So let's go take a look here at the museum. Alright, so we're going to be in the World War side today. And as you can see, there are four different types of war artifacts that we can have in here. So to start things off, we're going to start here on the right-hand side. These ones with the little stars at the top, these are legendary artifacts. Now, the legendary artifacts, in all honesty, unless you have quite a few of them, you're probably just going to be using whatever you have. They can be either purchased through the traveling merchant, such as down here. There's a couple available right now. They can also be earned in some of the events that go on. Right now, we don't have any of those events available. They can also be purchased with a lot of real money. And so, most likely, you'll just be using whatever you have. If you're playing more offensively, you'll probably use the most offensive ones you have. Defensively, you'll play with the most defensive ones. This one right here, just a quick note. It's got a weird little symbol at the top. This fourth legendary, the reason I can have it is because once you get to Information Age or above, one of the wonders you can choose is called the Heritage Museum. It allows you to have one extra slot for any type of artifact, both on the regular side and the World War side. I recently built my Heritage Museum, and on the World War side, I put a fourth legendary artifact. Now, we're going to be deep diving the crafted artifacts today. So as you can see on the far left side, we've got the little sword. This is what we call war weapons. The little helmet, this is war armor. And this little hammer and wrench is war equipment. And there are a lot of bonuses, and it's kind of overwhelming when you're trying to craft what should I be looking for? What should I be making? And a small part of that depends on what kind of player you are in the World War. Whether you're a more offensively focused player such as me, or you are a more defensively focused player. I'm a more offensively focused player, so I'm trying to get all of my buffs from the artifacts to boost my offensive chances, to boost my troops. So, let's see here. As you can see, you've got each artifact has 5 different slots. You have to upgrade them if you want the last few, depending on how good your artifact is. Some of them you can see I haven't upgraded at all. Some of them I've already gotten to 5 stars. But what should we be looking for? So we get 2 weapons, okay? We get 2 armor, and we get 4 equipment. Let me switch over, and let me show you guys the spreadsheet I've been looking on, which might help us out here. Okay, so on the World War side, we've got weapons, armor, and equipment, and the legendary. So the war weapons, we're going to start on the offensive part, okay? They increase your troop damage or healing. Healing applying to the healing trucks and healing helicopters. For the most part, they boost damage. The war armor increases your troops' hit points. And the war equipment has to do with buildings. So when it comes to offensive side for the buildings, you're looking for things that debuff the enemy buildings. So they can be damage, hit points. There's a special one we'll talk about in a minute called the spawn time. And then you can also get buffs to your generals. And then the legendary, it's just kind of whatever you've got. So From the offensive side, for the weapons, when you're making artifacts, what are ones you should keep and what are ones you should get rid of? So if you're looking for things to keep, um, you want to stick with troops that are going to perform very well. Some of the troops in the game perform significantly better than others. In general, what I've found from watching tons of attacks, from doing many attacks, is that increasing damage to mortars, paratroopers, range siege, attack helicopters, heavy tanks, and then fighters or bombers are typically the units you're going to use most often. In the meta right now, mortar and range siege is one of the biggest attack strategies. And all attack helicopter strategy can also work. I've also seen people use like heavy tanks with fighters, bombers, and then paratroopers can be used with just about anything. Um, so you want to focus on what are going to give you the best chances. Now, I don't exactly play by the meta. I personally use APCs, which spawn heavy infantry. So um, that's a personal and stylistic choice that I make because I found a way to make them work. Um, but in general, you want to be boosting the damage of the troops you're going to use. When it comes to the war armor, this specifically deals with hit points, kind of like damage. You want to, whatever troops you're using, again, the meta still sticks around mortars, paratroopers, range siege, attack helicopters, heavy tanks, fighters, bombers. When it comes to hit points, range siege really necessarily isn't great to boost because it has they have so few hit points already, doesn't help. Mortars and paratroopers tend to benefit a little bit more, especially the paratroopers. They have a lot of health. Now, the equipment when you're on the offensive side, you want to be looking at things that debuff enemy buildings. The three that you want to focus on, and you want to try and get when you're crafting. The most important one is enemy defender spawn time. This will increase how long it takes for defenders to spawn from enemy buildings. Um, Dominations recently did a poll amongst their players about which types of things defensively and offensively cause the most problems. And defending spawn troops was one of the biggest problems that attackers would rate as the most annoying thing to deal with, most difficult thing to deal with. So making the enemy troops take longer to spawn can have a significant impact. For example, the heavy tanks spawn in roughly 45 seconds, and if you have a pretty decent museum, let's say you have stacked some of the artifacts and you have a fair number of bonuses, well, you can get the enemy defender spawn time significantly higher. So instead of 45 seconds, let's say you get it up to 100%. That's going to double how long it takes. So instead of heavy tanks spawning every 45 seconds, they'll spawn every minute and a half. And you can do the same thing for reducing how much damage the enemy defensive towers, how much damage and hit points they have, making them easier to destroy and meaning they do less damage to your troops. Now, there's a caveat at the bottom. There's an in-game note in the museum that says the effects from benefits that debuff your opponent cannot exceed 85%. So while you can exceed that, which if your opponent is buffing their defensive, either their defensive tower hit points, their defensive tower damage, their own defender spawn time, and reducing that, yours can kind of cancel out with some of theirs. So it is very helpful to have them as high as you can. This will make your battle significantly easier. From the defensive side, it's kind of the reverse of that. So the weapons, instead of decreasing damage like you'd think, they actually decrease enemy troop hit points. And from a defensive standpoint, you could choose to either boost your own troops because you are going to need to attack still, or if you want to go crazy defensive, you could look at decreasing hit points for some of the troops that have more health. Range siege, maybe not, but paratroopers, attack helicopters, heavy tanks, fighters and bombers, any aircraft could be potentially helpful. And then from the war armor, it doesn't boost hit points. It decreases their damage or healing output. This one would, for any of the ones I've listed, mortar, paratrooper, range siege, attack helicopters, they all have high damage outputs, so reducing any of their damage would be helpful. Which ones to go for depend on what people are attacking you with. So if you want to stick with what's the most meta, you probably want to focus on decreasing hit points and damage for mortars, paratroopers, decreasing damage maybe for range siege, attack helicopters, and heavy tanks I don't see as often, but they still are used. From the war equipment defensive side, this is going to increase your own building health hit points. This is going to decrease your troops' spawn time. And you want to focus on first, and probably the most important thing from both the offense and defensive standpoint, is the defender spawn time. You need to reduce yours so that your troops spawn faster. You get more troops on the field, it's harder. They have to kill more of their troops. It's going to take them more time. Also, increasing your towers' damage and hit points, making them more survivable, do more damage. And again, when it comes to legendary artifacts, I put on here, it depends on your defense style, which you have. Again, there's a limitation as to what do you actually have available to you. Now, one thing to note, we'll go back into the game here. Gotta reload it real quick. Is that there are some limitations about how much you can increase, and that has to do with the artifacts themselves. So the artifacts have 5 slots. However, you are limited to only getting 2 slots on a particular artifact to boost the same thing. For example, this little trench knife that I have has 2 bonuses for mortar troop damage. I can't have a third one. And so there is a limit to how much you can boost up one particular troop. What I've found typically is that you want to try and boost 2 things. You want to focus on 2, maybe 3 things that you're going to boost with each of the different boosts. So, for example, this knife boosts mortars, it boosts paratroopers, and I'm going to hopefully re-roll this invading range infantry hit points because this is not very helpful for me. So this is going to be boosting mortars and paratroopers. Yeah, this one I haven't really worked on. For this pickle hobble, this helmet, it boosts hit points for heavy infantry, paratroopers, mortars, and heavy infantry. So here I'm boosting 3 different things. And again, I'm limited to, I can only have 2, so I need to choose what I want to keep. When crafting, I would recommend, if it doesn't have if it doesn't have 3 helpful lines, I would not keep it. So for example, let's pick this set of binoculars. I don't find this a particularly helpful artifact at all. This would be one I sell. The only reason I've kept it is because I don't have anything better than that 6% enemy defender spawn time. But from an attacking standpoint, this is what I would call fairly useless artifact, because even though the enemy air defense hit points and enemy readout damage, I have both of those boosts, it's better to have a boost that reduces all. So for example, this Christmas gift box, the top one is all enemy defensive tower hit points. So instead of just one particular building, it debuffs all of them. So something like this where I have 2 enemy defender spawn times, this is a fantastic one. It also has a line for enemy defensive tower hit points. That's what I would call 3 that are very good for an attacker. The defender spawn time is not particularly helpful for me, it helps my defensive side. But you want to try and get ones that have at least 3 good lines, and you want to focus on those. During lucky crafting events like we have now, you have a better chance of getting, it starts at 6% and goes up to 15%. You can either get 1, 3, or 5, or 6%. And you would preferably like to have all 6%. And it's easier to get them during these crafting events. So this one is, again, it's a 3 line. It's debuffing tower damage, tower hit points, and enemy defender spawn time. I chose to upgrade this air defense hit points because I wanted to get rid of this other one that has a lower percentage. So I'm going to reroll during a lucky crafting event, or lucky crafting reroll. I'll change this one. And again, this one has 3 lines. I wouldn't keep ones with 2 just because they're not very helpful. So again, you want to look for 3 or better. This one again has 3, enemy defender spawn time, enemy defender spawn time, all enemy defensive tower damage, again debuffs everybody. The general one is okay, not awesome, but better than the catapults, that's why I upgraded it. So, I hope that helps you guys out. If you guys want, let me go back to this spreadsheet here so you guys can pause, take a look at it, see what might benefit you the most. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank